Morning. I'm just checking my levels, make sure I'm all set. Good morning. How are you doing? Good Monday morning to you. I hope all of you are doing well this fine Monday morning and you had a great weekend. Welcome to Win Your Week with Retail Leadership with Steve Worthy. Super excited for this show. I've been thinking about doing this. Well, actually, let me stop lying. I actually started doing this on Sundays. I want to say earlier this year, and just how life happens and just things, kind of go awry. And I realized that what I want to bring this show back, but you know what, I want to do it on Monday mornings because here's the thing: if you are like me as someone who was in retail for a long period of time, Monday mornings are an opportunity for you to kind of start fresh and start new, whether you are in your car driving to work or you're about to board a plane and to fly into another market or you're driving on your way to work, right? Because you want to see what your team did for the weekend. You want to see what your store looks like. For those of us who are market leaders, right? You are now regional leaders, VP of stores, right? You're checking your dashboard, you're getting all this information, ready so that way when you can actually, have your conference calls and things like that later on today, you're ready and you're ready for some good information to share some good information. So I wanted to do this show on Monday mornings to provide you with that sort of Monday morning inspiration, but also to give you, a tool, um, content and information, and also just some lessons, some things that you can think about for Monday, but also for the rest of the week. Hence the name, Win Your Week. So super excited to talk to you today. Once again, I don't even think I introduced myself. This is how excited I am. I'm Steve Worthy, founder and CEO of Worthy Retail U. We are focused in on making senior retail leaders more profitable through our training, coaching, and our mentorship. We focus in on the concept around approachability. Approachability is honestly the retail leader's number one secret weapon. And so we do a lot of different things associated with that concept to help retail leaders become more profitable personally and professionally. Just to let you know, today's show is sponsored by our mastermind, our Worthy Retail U Leadership Mastermind Group. One of the things that I have often seen with retail leaders is that they need to invest in themselves. Companies and corporations will only take you so far. You have to take the time and you have to invest in yourself. But more importantly, you have to invest in the right areas. In connecting with people who are like-minded, connecting with people who actually have a really good perspective on where you are and where you want to be. That is probably the number one place that you want to be. You want to be connected with people who are actually moving you forward in your career, who are not actually just going to kind of sit back and just allow things to happen, but you want to be active and an active participant in your overall journey. Our leadership mastermind focuses in on certain key areas so that you can become the best leader that you've always wanted to be. Check us out for more information at worthyretailu.com/mastermind. I also have a link in the event bio as well too. This Thursday, we also have we do our LinkedIn audio events on Thursday, and this week we are going to be talking about 3 ways to conquer imposter syndrome. So 3 ways to conquer imposter syndrome, and that is going to be this Thursday. So super excited about that. The last thing that I want to get to before and while we get started is this amazing conference that and summit that I'm going to be a part of, which is going to be amazing, starting on September 19th, and it's going to go all the way through October 24th. April Sabrell, who has been amazing, she's an amazing author, former retail exec. She put all of this together, so I appreciate her for allowing me to be part of this overall experience. So you'll see more information about this coming up in my feeds, in my newsletter, and everything as we continue to move forward. So this is going to be one of those events that, as a retail leader, you do not want to miss. How many of us, you raise your hand, except if you're driving, How many of us have gone to a retail conference and all they talk about is the retail industry, right? But they don't talk about the retail leaders who actually have to implement all the different things that the retail industry is talking about. And for us, and for those individuals to do it, they actually have to have training, learning, and development and skills and ability to communicate their messaging. And so this conference is going to help those retail leaders as it relates to that. So super excited about that process as well. All right, cool. So let's do this. Let's go ahead and get this party started. I got about 23 minutes because I'm going to keep these things to a half an hour. One of the things that I always want to do, and I'm gonna do this every Monday morning, is we're gonna start out with some inspiration, and then we're gonna go into kind of what I feel is the big topic of in retail from last week, and then what does that mean for you? Because that's the most important part. That's what we want to get out of these Monday morning. Win your week is not just information, but what does it mean for you specifically, and what do you need to do with this information? So let's start with the inspiration. Here's the one. I know when you read this, you're probably like, really, Steve, you start off with this one. The only way to do a great the only way to do great work is to love what you do. And I know the words love what you do and retail and job are probably not going to be almost in the same sentence, right? Yeah, I don't, for some of us, it probably won't be in the same sentence. For me, it was. Over time, it became a passion. I loved it, immensely. Love what I was doing. I love the people. I love the engagement. And if you don't love your job, as a retail leader, you know, I would try to figure out ways for you to kind of grow and maybe some measure of infatuation with it because it's tough. Retail leadership is not for the faint of heart at any level. At any level, whether it's the cashier, cart attendant, store manager, district manager, regional VP, it doesn't matter. It is a very tough industry. It will find you out, right? If you think you are tough in a certain area in your life, man, all you have to do is spend a week in retail and it will show you some things about yourself. I think that's the reason why I loved it so much was because I was constantly getting a lesson in who I was as I would encounter different obstacles, different challenges, different people, different levels within the organization, constantly learning about myself. And so Steve Jobs quote, I think is very constructive. It's the only way to do a great job is to love what you do. I know some people are like, no, I can do a great job, and I don't have to necessarily love what I do. I, I get that, and I can understand, that perspective. But when I just think about, getting and doing the most in your job, right? There has to be some level of like love and appreciation for what you do. But dare I say, it's not so much about just what you do. I think it's about like who you do it with and who you do it for, right? Those are the things that really keep people going. Especially in retail, it's a matter of going into markets or going into stores and really connecting with those individuals. That's the part of the job that I really loved. The paperwork, not so much. So just a couple of lessons here, and then we're going to move on to kind of our story of the week. Cultivate passion for the retail industry to inspire your team. So these are just a couple of things I wrote down, and just a couple of lessons that I wanted us to kind of take away. You have to cultivate it. You have to cultivate um your retail journey, right? Good friend of mine, Ron Thurston, has a book, Retail Pride, and he talks about just the idea of people falling in love with their accidental career, and then they get to the point where they realize, you know what, this accidental career wasn't accidental at all. It was actually um, where I was supposed to be. It was exactly where I needed to be, and so cultivating this journey of your retail your leadership journey has to start with understanding that you're not in retail by accident. You're not in retail by accident. I thought I was in retail by accident for so many years when I started out until I realized that it was exactly what I needed to do and be doing in my life. Lesson two, um, encourage a positive work environment that fosters enthusiasm. I know it sounds simple, right? Um, I think it's a matter of how do you present yourself as a leader, because people feed off of you. They feed off of your body language. They feed off of your mannerisms. They feed off of, how you communicate when you walk in, right? So I'm gonna give a cup of coffee here. People, one of the things that um I remember as a young leader, and well, the young multi-unit leader, and I walked in stores, and I had my hands in my pocket, and I was walking in the store and I had my hand in my pocket, and I remember I got feedback from, like, it was a seasoned leader, and they were like, when you walk around with your hands in your pocket, it doesn't seem like you really care. And I was just like, what are you talking about? Of course I care. What are you talking about? Well, it just doesn't, your body language. And it really struck me. It really struck a chord. And initially I was a little upset because, like, what are you talking about? I don't care. But I took the feedback and I realized was that it's all in how you carry and you present yourself, and how people will perceive you, but more importantly, how they will perceive how you feel about them and what they do. So this idea around enthusiasm is not just a matter of, coming in and, being all, kind of a, this a big cheerleader. Now we need to be a cheerleader. We need to be able to connect with people and be able to, bring them up, right? Our presence as a leader when we walk in the room should bring people up. It shouldn't bring people down. If that's what's happening, you got a problem, right? So the idea of the enthusiasm is every time we walk into the room, we need to be bringing people up. Think about your body language. Think about how you carry yourself. Think about the communication that you actually use on a daily basis. So all these things go into the perspective of loving your job and loving what you do, but more importantly, loving those that you do it with and that you also do it for. All right. I appreciate that. So here we go. Let's go into let's go into we are going to talk about, let me make sure I got it. Here we go. All right, good deal. So this is if you are in retail, and you haven't been sleeping under a rock. Now I'm going to move this over here. This is all, and you haven't been sleeping under a rock. You've been able to you've seen all of the solid, um, quarterly reports from, Walmart and, and Target. And I always think about, because I work for both companies, and I always think about it in the context of when this information comes out, what do you do with it, right? What do you do with, and whether or not you work for these companies or you work for another company? They could be public traded, they could be private, private. Everybody reports to somebody. Everybody reports their earnings to somebody, whether it's Wall Street, private equity, or it's a just a not really a sole proprietorship. We don't even do that anymore too much in retail, except for you have your own retail store. But everybody reports to somebody, meaning that all the financial data goes somewhere. And I often found, initially when I was a newer leader, even though I got my undergrad in accounting, I didn't take, stock into the overall results as deep as I should have. Um, I think the we allow the profit and loss and earnings to kind of happen to us. So it's almost because they're a lagging indicator of what we've done. So if you have to think about it in that context, they are a lagging indicator of what we've actually brought to the table, our staffing levels, assortment, logistics process, you name it. That's what these things are. That's what these things do. So We saw some quarterly, reports, from Walmart and Target, and they also talk about, the results lay bare to the retailers' stark differences, and some of the differences that they were talking about relative to the, grocery. I'm just going to look at this and read this. Grocery accounts for more than half of Walmart sales, but just 20% of Target's. It's the it's one of the key differences that help explain the company's diverging outlooks. So, if you are with a company, not Walmart or Target, when you get your quarterly results, what do you do? So we break down this morning into three things. We talk about one thing to know, one thing to ask, and then one thing to do. So when you are thinking about quarterly numbers, even your monthly numbers, even your weekly, one of the things to know, and you probably have to do some research on this, is know your customers' spending patterns. Steve, how do I find that out? It's easy. It's easy. Almost every retailer has, data where they can see, foot traffic. They can see the ability around, average ticket. They can also see things around, on a even on a daily basis, where you can see the categories that are rising and falling, that are being impacted. Right. You can even think about it. You can look at it from a time of day. Right. I often interestingly enough, um, while commodities, in my overall experience, it's interesting that commodities, a large part of commodities were purchased, during the morning time. Is people seemed like they needed detergent, they needed toilet paper, they needed cleaning supplies, they need all that stuff is almost like early in the morning, because you like someone's like, yo, we got the last roll of toilet paper. Who's going to the store? And I often noticed that in a lot of my markets was that the commodities were purchased early. Yes, they were purchased evenly throughout the day, but there was a huge surge in commodity purchases in certain markets, whether it's rural or in a city as well. So understanding your customers' buying pattern now, as you start to think about, where should you put, a lot of your effort. I know every store has a logistics process and they have a restocking process, but a lot of those processes can be overwritten and they can also be customized as it relates to understanding what you're selling and when you are selling it. And so having the ability to, know your customers' spending patterns is extremely important. And there is too much data that is out there for you not to know what your what the spending, patterns are over time. The other aspect of understanding the spending patterns is to think about it as we start to slowly creep into, we just moved out of, or we're still kind of in back to school, back to college, but then we move into, Halloween, we move into Q4. It's even more important for you to have a better understanding of what your customers are buying, because when you get down to that time frame, it's going to be incumbent upon you to have the right assortment, looking at last year's data, looking at sell through, looking at all those different aspects of your overall business. Because if you don't do that, guess what? You run the risk. I'm going to put this over here. You run you run the risk of not um, not having the right product at the right time for the right guest, right? So I'm just going to leave it as simple as that. All right. So we just talked about know one thing. Um, Here's the thing: ask one thing. Ask one thing. Ask one thing. This is the one that a lot of retail leaders really need to get. They really need to get this one down. Is to ask one thing. And I wrote down, ask how your market or your store adds value. So when you get the big picture of quarterly results, you get the big picture of the quarterly results. a lot of those things, of course, we have the majority of retailers, I dare I say, all of them, have the ability for you to drill down deep, deep, deep into your level of impact, on those quarterly results. And I know, it's like, well, I'm just one store. Listen to me. Yeah, your one store impacts the district, right? Then your district impacts the region. Your region impacts, the uh uh the territory, of that company. And so it's important that it's a compounding effect that you have with your store's results, with your market's results. It's not just one quarter. It's a quarter upon the it's a quarter it's the next quarter. It's the quarter after that. It's a compounding effect. And so it's important for you to be able to dig down deep into understanding the value that you add, and your stores add to your company. So the issue is that we typically look at the annual or quarterly results as a corporate thing. We're like, oh, that's just corporate and that's just EPS and EVPs and CEOs. That's all they care about. But you also have to think about it in context of your individual output. You have to think about it at relative to your individual ability to um, get a raise, to get promoted, to promote other people. All these things matter in the grand scheme of things. And so it's important for you to have a better understanding of where you stand as it relates to all of these different areas. So the question to ask the question to ask is, how much value or what type of value are you adding? Are you adding value from a talent standpoint? Are you adding value, quarter upon quarter with your overall results? Are you adding value, as it relates to payroll, controlling controlling payroll, right? Payroll is for okay, and I got almost 7 minutes up. Payroll. Here's my perspective on payroll. Um, Payroll, of course, is all about it's all about production, productivity. Period. Right. And we all know that we have that one person that is probably two times as productive as two people that we currently have. And so when I think about it in that context as it relates to production, you have to think about it and um, your assessment and who you're actually bringing on board, because the better the individuals are, the better you're able to assess, the better you're able to connect, the better your actual overall productivity becomes, your ability to get things done. You can get things done a lot quicker. Guess what? You end up saving payroll. I understand it doesn't work that easy. It doesn't work that like that. I do you know? Have you not been in stores? Yes, I've been in stores. I've been in stores. I know I understand that plight, but I've also seen it work um, extremely well when you don't think about just bringing on a body, but you actually bring on people that actually fit the role, and that there's coaching, teaching, and training that takes place after that. Right? Those are all. That's a whole nother topic that I can go into, but you have to think about how your store or your market adds value to the overall company. All right. And then the last one, this is what I want y'all to do. This is what I need you to do. Deep dive deeper into your data around customer experience, inventory management, um, all those things. So I see a comment here that I don't like, and I can do that since I'm live, and I like doing that. All right. Um, Dive deeper into your data around customer experience, inventory alignment, staffing and training. We just talked a little bit about staffing and training just a second ago. I think I opened up with customer experience, but I do want to talk about inventory realignment. A lot of stores and a lot of markets don't feel that they have the ability to actually change their assortment. Now, here's the thing: there is a staple um, level of assortment that you are going to get based on X number of categories, based on, of course, AI, generative, logistics process and understanding stock levels, but sell through all these different things. So you are going to get, um, stock, that is based on categories, based off of all of that data that you're just going to get, right? That's it. It is what it is. Based on your store, based all these different variables. However, for larger seasonal categories, you do have a say so. You do have the ability to change what that looks like in your store. You also have the ability as a market leader, um, a regional, to change what that looks like from store to store. I think I'm not I'm preaching to the choir here, but I say this is because a lot of people don't do it. A lot of people don't do it. They don't take the time to deep dive into their information, into their data, and then make decisions. Here's what I would do. I made right after, or not even right after, as we were going through the summer, I was constantly taking up data points, and I was constantly thinking about what are some of the things that we can do for next summer. Who do I need to talk to from a merchandising standpoint in order to um, get better assortment in this store? This store sells a ton of kayaks. This store not so much. How can we, and the patterns have been like this for years, but they're continuously getting this store's X is continuing to get all these kayaks, and they're not selling them. So guess what we have to do? We have to do store to store transfers, all these different things, right? Understand that those are fine. But guess what if we were able to kind of cut through that process and provide that data for the buyers, for the logistics people, and actually get that information ahead of time. It's not a perfect system. It's not a perfect system, and I don't think it ever will be a perfect system. You have to just be able to understand that you are going to be a part of this overall process. And oh, and I'm sorry. How are you doing, Jared Jones? For some reason, once again, I'm not able to get the LinkedIn comments over here too, so I had to go back over here to LinkedIn. Um, so I just wanted to go back here, and I'm ready to win this week. I can imagine you saying I didn't choose this. Yeah, that's funny. That's so true. That's so true. So yeah, I'm having an issue with these comments over here. I'm having an issue with these comments. But we'll go ahead and get that sorted for next week. We'll figure it out. All right. So this last point, once again, do one thing. I just wanted to make sure that I touched upon this as it relates to the aspect of what we were talking about. Let me go back here. Big companies, as it relates to their annual results or quarterly results. What does this mean for you as a retail leader? What does it mean for you? We talked about knowing one thing, know your customers' spending patterns, understanding what that looks like for your market, for your store. Understand the little nuances, because I'm telling you right now, it's the little nuances that make the biggest difference. Talk to your customers. I don't know how many leaders I have worked with that don't even talk to their customers. They don't even have a conversation with them, especially well, that was one of my favorite parts when I walked into a market. It was not, I loved my team, but just talking to the customers, seeing what was going on, what was working and what wasn't working, what they wanted to see. You had to take the time to do that. And then also, the second one, ask one thing, ask how your market or your store is adding value to the company. Because when we start to talk about all these quarterly reports, you have a role to play. It's a compound effect. It's not just that quarter, it's the quarter upon the next. It's the next quarter. What are you doing consistently to add value to the company, as it relates to those results? Because if you understand that once again, then you understand the idea is that all these things play a role within your journey as a leader. Promotions, raises, talent development, all these things play a role when you understand the value that your market or your store adds. And then lastly, do one thing, deep dive into your data, customer experience, inventory, realignment, staffing. And I have staffing and training highlighted because that is a massive, massive part of our business and helping us understand what we need to do so that we can be successful as a retail leader. All right. Whew, let me see. I'm only 2 minutes over. I'm only 2 minutes over. I'm actually pretty excited. I'm only 2 minutes over. I would I would go further, but I don't want to because I want to keep these things short. I want to give you just the ability and opportunity to get some quick morning inspiration, but also give you something that is going to help you as a retail leader think differently about your day, think differently about where you are and the value that you can add to yourself first and foremost, and then also to your team. Almost every time I got into a car on Monday morning or I was going somewhere, I was listening to a podcast, I was listening to a book, I was listening to something that was going to kind of feed my spirit and feed my soul because retail's tough, and you can walk into any circumstance at any given time. So mentally, you actually have to be prepared, and that's what this Win Your Week with Retail Leadership with Steve Worthy. It's giving you a perspective and helping you with some inspirational thought process, but more importantly, giving you some actionable items that you can think about on Monday, so that you can win the rest of your week. Thanks so much for being here. I look forward to it. Once again, Thursday, 1 p.m., our LinkedIn audio room. We are going to be, let me go over a second. Where's the thing at here? We are going to be discussing 3 ways to conquer imposter syndrome. As a retail leader, super excited about that. Those of you who know me know that I love the topic of imposter syndrome. I've dealt with it so many years and so many often, and I've been able to help so many other people with that process as well. So we are going to be talking about that on this Thursday at 1 p.m. in our LinkedIn audio room. All right. Thank you so much for being here. Have a great day. Have a great Monday, and go ahead and win the rest of your week. All right. God bless.